Thank you, Paul. Welcome everyone to the last one of the week. Little introduction. Work for a design agency. We produced, amongst the staff, we each produced over 1,000 reports. We've got some big clients, banks and maybe oil and mining companies. We've been a big advocate for ESEF, and we started an R&D program to develop our own software back in 2016, which is now coming to fruition.
Sure, can you just hold the mic a little bit closer?
Sorry. And then, why is a design agency in front of you at an XBRL event? Well, we do make it pretty and we do make glossy reports, but we intersect with the client and how they want to talk to their various stakeholders. We work with the regulators. We're all over the production techniques, previously with print. And when you dig into that, that is quite technical. We've been doing corporate websites for over 20 years. So we're across all the individual makeup and also the sort of project management of actually bringing a report together. So we sort of have a wide spread into report production. Just going to introduce or talk about the wider part of annual reporting. And we've had questions about why aren't corporates producing native XHTML reporting, and they're still doing PDF conversion. But they do have a lot of challenges to that. An annual report for a major company will take several thousand working days to pull together over the year. That's not including CSRD, which is going to add a significant amount, especially on first year. In relation to that, the ESEF tagging takes about 5 days. So it's a minor part of the effort of getting an annual report out. Why do they do it? That's a lot of cost and time and money for their staff. One, they have to, but it's important for them to connect to their various audiences. And if they don't connect to their audiences, it can have a long-term impact to the value. So it's not always just about the money, but if they lose the messaging war, especially around sustainability, that can hit their sales and their engagement with the public. If they're not, we've found that one of their major audiences of the annual report is actually potential hires, finding out about the company, do they want to work with them? And if you don't get good talent to start with, your long-term value's not going to be there because you won't have the people to deliver it. In yesterday's opening session, John raised this question, why digital, what's in it for me? In our experience, we've had clients begging us to be able to go digital on annual reporting for at least 10 years now. The slight difference is here in Madrid, we talk about digital and we really mean structured data. When you talk to a client about digital, they want a microsite. They don't want a flat, boring PDF. That really doesn't work for them, and doesn't make the money worth it. So what's holding them back? In the UK, we still have a bit of a peculiar requirement that if a shareholder asks for the annual report that they've paid for, essentially, we have to print out a copy and send it to them. So in some of the big companies, especially when we had the public sell-offs of the gas industry, that meant 20 million copies. It was printing for a month and then had to be posted out. And we still got that law. I'll come on to how that's changed. And also then across all of Europe with ESEF, we've got production challenges. InDesign helps us to change content, redesign it really quickly. And you wouldn't believe how many times a certain section changes and starts again. And even sometimes 2 days before the end, we're throwing away whole sections and re-inputting it. And working with web tools doesn't let us do that quickly. So that's been the problem. So things are changing. Basically, companies have badgered their shareholders saying, for the sake of our sustainability footprint, please only have a printed copy if you really, really need it. So we're down now to most print runs are less than 1,000 copies, which means we can use RGB PDFs. We don't have to develop the highly specialized print-ready PDFs. So that PDF goes from being the primary deliverable, because there was a lot of risk. They've got to get it printed and delivered and still leave 20 working days before their AGM. So if the print run was late, they would have to change the NOM and rebook another venue for several thousand shareholders, which is not so easy to do. And also software tools have evolved, and now we've got several solutions across the industry that's making it more easy to produce the reports in the timeframes we need at the cost levels. So we think we're at an inflection point in the transition from PDF to XHTML. We're finding companies that have low print runs, have a real ambition to engage with audiences using web techniques, are starting to make the leap. So let's take a look at a real one. So this is one we... Oh, God. Sorry. Oh. So this is the tool we built. You know, there are other tools are available. We focus on starting with the microsite and then sort of dumb down for ESEF and the PDF. This is actually in XHTML rather than HTML5, but we're not building apps. We don't need to quite go there. A lot of what we need to achieve, we can do in XHTML. We have full nav, and this, you know, this will go to, sorry, I hate trackpads. Boom, boom, boom. So this is the microsite, and we also can, I'm going to go to the financial statements because we have built-in XBRL viewer. So we have our XBRL, so that's all available. So as an end user, we're not having to force them to download a zip, unzip it, and then find out the viewer isn't there, so they can't really see this crossover of the data. So that satisfies, you know, some of that moving reporting forwards. And then you can be saying, well, you know, in ESEF you can't do this. So we have two scripts in this. We have a script for the site-wide search, and we have a script for the analytics, because now that we're in good XHTML, we can build all of this in from source. We're not starting with a PDF that we're in such a rush to tag, you can't add any functionality back into the XHTML. So that means that our clients can track what pages are being read, what's getting the attention. We also, why is this not working? I think it's just the Wi-Fi has taken the time. Sorry, it's responsive, and this is going to bring up a mobile view, a tablet view, and a website view eventually. Might have, oh, there you go. So all of the code is responsive. It's also WCAG accessible. So that's another step forward. In the ESMA choice of moving to XHTML, they listed the reasons why PDF wasn't suitable, and accessibility and responsiveness, and everyone now uses the web, and most people access the web on their phone it's not at the desktop anymore. So this satisfies all of that. On the video, we replace that out with a static image. But then everything else on here is actually valid. So I'm just going to find. So even animated SVGs are valid under the ESEF requirement. So there's very little here that couldn't be in your ESEF. The other thing we would have to do, we do it as pages, like a normal website, so they're chunked, which means they load quicker, but we can achieve the same visual look with the navigation even within a single XHTML file. So I'm just going to go back to... So advantages, if you do the normal PDF method, I took last year's version of this report because it seemed the fairest comparison. That was 15 meg. The ESEF file was, the zip file was 58 and the unzip file was 81. With the XHTML, the PDF file is almost the same, and then the ESEF file is almost similar to the PDF file. So the file size is so much better. You've not got all those unnecessary spans almost every letter, so it's much more condensed. And our tagging is done within the system, so as the number changes, the tagging stays the same around it, and the same with the text blocks. So that means that you can do your preparation for tagging early, and literally when the audit committee say yes go, you can just do an export and 3 minutes later you have your ESEF. So it's very quick in the process. It's also got full semantic HTML, so that then means, I should have showed you, when we get into the text block tagging, we've got full table, TH, TR, TD. We've got SUPs around the superscripts. You obviously, with text block tagging, you can't go around the fact that when you create the XBRL of the text block tag, you do decapitate it from some of the styling. But because we have the HTML, the semantic meaning is still there. Whereas if you do it in a PDF and a superscript at the end of a number for a footnote, suddenly that number becomes full size and drops down. It basically multiplies that number by 10. So it would be really wrong. So we fail gracefully, which is something I always liked. So that was what happens to the machine experience. For the human experience, you get engagement. You'll laugh, but when we go and present to the FD and head of investor relations, and we stick a video on the homepage with some movement in it, and they go, that's what we want, where do we sign? It's because they get engaged in it. They know that if the front cover works, and then they have that, you know, the chairman speaking, reading his statement, so you're getting the same content, but it's from a human, they know that's what will get people to engage with their company. And the more they hold them, especially nowadays with attention spans, they get them interested in the company. So that builds a relationship. Like I said, reduced file size means it works on your mobile. You haven't got long download times. You're not downloading the whole report in one go. It's accessible, it's responsive, it's searchable. So it's searchable from your favorite browser. So if you ask for the chairman's statement of Oakley Capital, it will take you straight to that text block, that heading. It won't take you to where you can download the PDF. And that becomes really useful because you can do it in your social media. You can point exactly to the content, so someone will get there. They haven't got to go to the PDF, do something else, download that, find the page, squeeze it so they can read it. So you get that immediacy that you want with the socials nowadays. Also, we've been doing, with this one, we put links in the RNS so that when that went up on the stock exchange feeds, actually it could take you straight to the parts of the document that were being referenced, and that got good response. And the analytics, we can tell what clients are looking at or users are looking at. In the PDF, once they open it, we lose them. We don't know what sections of interest to them. We don't know if suddenly a news story comes up and they're all looking at the sustainable pages or reading the REM. They get no engagement. So now that we can measure that, that's really useful. So this is the payback the client gets for spending these hundreds of thousands of pounds producing the report. So in the end, PDF to ECF was a bit of an emergency at the time, because when ECF was put out, there was no software that could build it. I remember Paul showing us at the FCA that he'd hand-built a spread. I was like, that's really nice, Paul, but it's not going to cut any mustard in an annual report that's 400 pages long and changes 30 times in its lifetime. Every page changes. So there wasn't anything. So thankfully, the ECF requirement didn't break corporate reporting for Europe. The ESG disclosures that are coming up are going to make it really difficult to do the PDF conversion, because there's an awful lot of tagging to do by hand, especially when you come to the links between the policies, actions and targets and the IROs. There's a lot of, it's not so, is there a checklist? You need to find all of those links to add them. So we think there's going to be as clients have actually had to invest in systems to build and collect the CSRD data, so they're going to have to move the actual output process. So we think that will be a bit of a Kickstarter. The PDF conversion just takes too long at the wrong point in the process. You've got audit. Everybody's in the room for those half a day to sign it off and get it done. You can't be waiting if there's a change to go and remake the PDF, send it to your tagger, reapply all of those tags, and then send it back to the audit committee. So that's a big problem. The new software, different software does different bits, but not only do they solve tagging and output, they also bring other things that improve corporate reporting and the production process, which works with better auditability by linking to the data. If the link is automatic and doesn't have a human retyping it, then it's more likely to be right. You can also then track who was the last person to edit the source and why they did it and when it happened. So you can just look at what's changed since the last time we did an audit check. Doors are opening, barriers are coming down. It's not quite right for every filer, but it's going to start. I mean, since we've done this, the phone hasn't stopped ringing, and we're having to talk to people, because we know some people's corporate culture is they don't make up their mind, and that's really poor in when you work with web design. It's not as quick as the old working with prints, so we kind of have to pick people to work with. And ultimately, the big win for you guys is that you get cleaner code, people have time to focus on the quality of the tagging. The tagging is done more by the system, so it's less variable, and you should get better XBRL to work with. So hopefully it's win-win. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you very much. We do have time probably just for one question, because we do next door. Has anyone got any questions? Alex.
No. Cheers, Alex.
No, all positive here. I'm a very I think it's very good to use HTML what it was intended for. So my question would be, is there anything now in the specifications that are holding you back? For instance, the use of scripts that is not allowed in ESMA. Should we take a better look at that restriction and make it better defined to serve the right purpose, or can you just make whatever you want with a with what you have now?
Yeah, CSS has come on so far that, you know, obviously it's still a legal document. We don't really want too much happening with the presentation and the rendering that makes it difficult to audit. You know, it's if the auditor changes their browser size, their window size, we don't want things dropping off and then having to do like 3 different audits on the same page. You know, animation and stuff like that engages the other audiences apart from yourself. You can all do CSS. We, you know, 3 years ago we probably had to do scripts, so we're not seeing too much limitation. In our ESEF filing, we don't put the animated graphs in, we replace them for a static image because we're not trying to make it difficult for auditors. We don't want them to be alarmed at things like this. Is what they're seeing what the end user will see, or will it be different next time they look at it so their audit doesn't stand up? So I think if we can get away from the wallpaper approach that you get from PDF, which makes it really difficult to navigate through the page. You know, ask me that question in 5 years' time when the majority of reports are being made in native XHTML. And I think by then the underlying web technologies might have made the scripting unnecessary. I think the analytics is really useful. So whether you could get an approved script that is allowed, I don't know.
Could be something that we can take a look at, right, in the specification.
Yeah, you know, things that you know have a self-contained impact. The only trouble is, as soon as you have a script, you can go off and call another script. So, you know, but maybe there are approved ones then that we could work with. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's an awful lot of questions that I'd like to ask about the impact of making reports more interactive and more responsive and the impact of that on audit, but they will have to wait. Possibly we could do a session on that at the next conference. So for now, please join me in thanking Shaun.